Hey, what's up, guys? So I want to share with you a quick story. I'm reading this book, Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And this one particular chapter has really punched me in the face. And mind you, I get punched in the face a lot by these books because I'm constantly taking what I'm reading and connecting it with parts of my life that I've dealt with in the past. And here was a chapter that talked about adversity and how adversity can actually motivate you versus holding you back, right? So let me share with you this story. So back around 8 years ago, I was still working at the local hospital, and I was working in the children's hospital, doing fundraising events for sudden infant death syndrome. And half of my salary was subsidized by a grant by one of the foundations that were housed in the office building that the hospital was in. And they were slowly building me up to the point where my boss basically said after the first of the year, that grant is going to go away. They won't fund your position anymore. So what the hospital is going to do is absorb you and bring you into a more of an administrative secretary position. And for the last 4 months or so, half of my day included basically just filing papers, filing records and stuff in different offices, different departments, back offices. So I felt literally like I was in prison doing this type of work. And then I would get out of work and go home and I would design as much as I can, fall asleep, rinse and repeat the whole thing for about 4 months. And then it finally hit me like, eventually this is all going to go away and I'm going to have to be a administrative assistant going forward. And that just wasn't in the books for me. I had already achieved my master's degree, and I was like, there's no way. This is not what is meant for me. So I started to think, well, what if the design business doesn't pick up? What if it's not enough to sustain a living? So I started to get nervous. So I went to my uncle for some advice. And my uncle owns a very large construction company in New Jersey. He's very successful and so on and so forth. And so I went to him basically asking him some advice as to what I should do and if there was a possibility for me to come work for him. And so we set the meeting up. It was an early Saturday morning. I go to meet him and I walk in his office, I sit down, and he's like, tell me what's up. So I explained the whole situation, what's going on at the hospital, and I said, maybe I could come work for you guys and grow in the business. And he looked at me and he said, do you know what the construction business is all about? And I said, not really, but, I know I'm a hard worker and I know I'll grind it out. And he says, yeah, it's not just that. He goes, what would you even want to do here? And I said, well, and a few of my friends were working with him at the time. I think they still are. And I said, well, I could do that kind of work. And he goes, well, they went to school for that work. And they've been doing this since they were 15. And they know the business almost inside and out. So what value could you bring to me? And I was like, holy shit, he's got a point here. So he says, listen, worst case scenario, we'll find something for you. We'll bring you in. But I just want you to understand that we get slow too sometimes. And there's not enough work for everybody. And we have to let people off. And he goes, you being my nephew, that would be tough to do. But it would have to happen. So he said, I'm just letting you know that. So he said, let me do this. Let me talk to my brass, see if there's a position for you. We'll get back to you. And present it, and if you want to take it, you can take it. So I said, all right, we'll leave it at that. So I walk out, started thinking, and I was like, all right, I'll just wait for him to get back to me. A week goes by. 2 weeks goes by. 3 weeks goes by. No response. Now, I could have taken that a lot of ways. I could have taken it negatively and showed animosity, resentment. I could be pissed off at him. Oh, you didn't, But I didn't. I looked at it and I said, the best thing that my uncle ever did for me was to not get back to me and offer me that position. Because what eventually happened was the hospital said, listen, you have two choices. You could leave or you're going to be a secretary. I decided to leave at that point. And I said to myself, there is no other option here other than for Unique Designs to succeed. And I went that next year, and I didn't have even a desktop computer at the time. I had a laptop. I didn't even have a mouse. I designed with my finger on the mouse pad. And I've been doing that for 2 years already. But that year that I left that hospital, I never worked harder in my life. And I was able, by myself, to generate close to $248,000 in sales. One person. And I would have never been able to do that if my uncle would have gotten back to me. So I thank him to this day, believe it or not, because it has catapulted me and my career to what it is today. So do not let adversity get you down. Look at the positive of adversity and use it to motivate you.